I'll be brief with this. I'm gonna get straight to the point. You see the title of the video. So first of all, I have no issues with Jason Whitlock. I actually like him. Same thing with Stephen A. Smith. I like him. I have no issue with none of these guys. The only way you're gonna find me having an issue with you is if you're going out the my family, me to an extent. Like, I'm the type that if I'm on some bullshit, you call out my bullshit. So, I mean, if you were correcting me, rebuking me, no issue with that, right? But let me get to the point. So, Jason, you're going to allow your personal feelings to destroy your reputation? Are you kidding me? I'm gonna try to be brief with this because I just want to bring up two very quick examples. So, first of all, I did not watch his video. Okay, I did click on it, but I'm bringing it up because I clicked on it, and the title is Shador Sanders overshadow Myles Garrett greatness. And then of course I click on it. I go through the intro and get to like the beginning, and the first thing I see when I fast forward it is Jason holding a bottle of bourbon, which is alcohol, but he's holding it and he's basically saying, I'm gonna need this to get through this conversation or something like that. Okay, if I'm wrong about that, y'all correct me, but that's kind of the way I perceived it when I was looking at it. Now, I didn't even watch it. Now, in this case, when it comes to stuff like that, the supporters or the detractors are always going to make excuses. And this is a prime example. You already knew if the Browns won, but if Shador didn't play perfect, it was going to be something. It was going to be some on how he played. If he played perfect, it would have been, well, nobody got game plan for him yet, so he was lucky that he played against the Raiders and they really didn't have a game plan for him. We'll see how he does. It was always going to be an excuse. But let me get to the point. As I was saying, Jason, you're going to allow your personal feelings to destroy your reputation. And this is the thing. When you are representing yourself as a Christian and you're constantly harping on someone and you're trying to, it's nothing wrong with pointing out things that are bad, right? But the last time I checked, Deion ain't constantly breaking the law. He's not telling people to walk away from God or none of that. And from a perception standpoint, and perception is one of the most important things out there. Yes, the truth is the most important, but for the most part, people they're going to approach life based off perception, right? They're going to make these decisions based off perception. Unfortunately, that's the world we're in. But based off perception, Deion Sanders, he proclaims to be a Christian. He talks about his love for God. He seems to discipline these men. I don't want to hear about, he has these certain rappers behind closed doors every once or twice or 3 times a year. More times than not, he takes accountability based off what we see. He takes accountability. If he's doing it for himself, so what? If he's taking accountability to what would I say? If he's taking accountability because he just wants to pretend that he's this virtuous guy, so what? The example is that he's showing in front of the world is he's taking accountability, and when young men see that, they're like, well, based off what I see this older black guy that I have a certain level of respect for, I'm going to fall in line and do that same thing, right? All I see when it comes to Deion is him leading by good example. That's the only thing I can go by. We don't know. You can claim you know what he is behind closed doors. I don't care about that. The thing that he is showing to us is he's leading by example in a good way. Now, this is the thing when it comes to being a Christian. If you're going to constantly harp on someone, not give them a rebuke and move on and allow them to make their own decisions. If you continue to harp on someone in a negative way, people are going to give you the side eye. That's what pushes a lot of people away from Christianity. You rebuke and then you allow them from a free will standpoint to make their own decisions. If they're going to continue to bullshit, unless it's somebody that's in your personal group that you're holding accountable every week, that's That's different. That's not the same as someone that's on the outside that you're giving them information, and then hopefully they come around later. Maybe they come around, next week. Maybe it's next month. Maybe it's when they're older, right? Because you don't get to choose when they decide they want to give their life to God. You don't. And obviously, the Bible have shown examples where there were some pretty bad people in there, and they turned their life around way down the road, right? That created some crazy sin. So as a Christian, Jason, unless it's one of your men that you're having Bible study with, or group, whatever y'all do weekly, if it's a person like Dion, say what you need to say and move on. Period. In a story. Now I'm gonna finish it with this. The two things that kind of turned me off is all I hear Jason say when it comes to, and this is not me disrespecting Jason. Again, I'm not looking at him as a bad guy. This is more of like a rebuke from a younger man. All I hear from Jason is, as a Christian, you supposed to live by this certain example. Men are supposed to be ahead of the household. Men are supposed to be leading by example. And all we know about Dion, based off what we see, is he's been in his kids' life for the most part, especially when it comes to I'm pretty sure he's been in all his kids' life, but I'm saying based off what we see when it comes to the internet, he was heavily invested in Shador. How many black fathers are raising their kids from the time they're born all the way up until they graduate, and they're participating with them in a sport as such, you know what I mean, that teaches all these values when it comes to football. Excuse me, I almost had to burp, sorry. Not many. And that's not even black, that's any man, So that's one thing you got to bring up. Maybe Jason has talked about that and walked away from it, like he said what he needed to say about it, and then he never brought it up. Well, you should have that same energy when it comes to rebuking. You say what you need to say, and you move on. You don't constantly, every week, hoping that somebody fail. Christians don't do that. They don't hope that somebody fail so that they can talk about it and say, look, I told you, this person is not he's a fake coach and all that. That's not a Christian thing to do. It's not. I don't care how y'all can argue with me up and down. That's not the Christian way. Okay, so that, to me, if you're gonna continue to harp on the energy of he's putting on this mask with Dion, at the very least you need to constantly point out how he's led his kids, his black kids, as a black man, and really push that so that other black men and younger, whether older or young, but definitely younger, can say, okay, based off Dion actually being in your kid's life, actually leading as a father, actually doing the things that's right and teaching about doing the things that are right, it's cool. Right? Then the second thing, I thought Jason dropped the ball on this. Okay. When, what's his name? Bud Crawford, Terrence Bud Crawford, which I love Terrence's story. I've kept up with him. I love that he's from Nebraska. I actually like Nebraska personally when we went there to visit. But he dropped the ball because I don't know Bud's story. I don't know what he does behind closed doors. That's not my business. That's his business. But based off what's been shown to us, y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, it's been said that he's still with his same wife. And supposedly he has all of his, I'm not going to say supposedly because that'll be disrespectful. I'm sorry, Terrence. He has all his same kids by the same wife. Jason didn't even touch on that. Think about that for a minute. This dude fought in one of the biggest fights of all time and dominated. And at the very least, you didn't give it 10 minutes of a segment in your show. The next day, you didn't talk about it at all. At the very least, you didn't even have to talk about the fight. You could have talked, and I know Jason does his homework, or he has people that do their homework. He could have easily said, hey, based off Terrence Bud Crawford, the one thing I'll say about this man, or what the things that the research I've done, he has a wife, he has all his kids by the same wife, and he could have really pushed the envelope on that for men out there, especially young black men. Okay, and let me say this: this is not a white versus black thing. I've been in Colombia most of my life. Okay, we're Mizzou, right? If you know anything about Colombia, some of my closest friends on the planet are Caucasian. Okay. The reason why I'm using that as a qualifier is I'm trying to help you understand this is not a white versus black thing. But in these particular two examples, the first guy is the Sanders family. He goes on and on about all the time, but it's always negative instead of always talking about the example of him being a father that did lead his kids. Then again, back to the Terrence Bud Crawford stuff. That should have been the entire show. Really, you should have spent 30, 45 minutes just talking about that. But at least it should have had a segment in your show talking about Terrence Bud Crawford. You could have talked about his story. You could have definitely talked about, you didn't even have to talk about his story. I mean, you could have. But you definitely could have talked about his situation now. And based off your research, that's being out there for us to know that he's a black man with his same wife. He didn't ditch his wife once he became who he is. And he has all the same kids. And Bud has talked about the importance of his family, how his dad was in the service and his dad wasn't able to be there for him like that. He wasn't like disparaging his dad, but he was just he's speaking the truth based off his life. But regardless of that, he didn't want to be that same father. And he's went out of his way to make it to all his kids' stuff. So much so that he leaves his boxing camps for a big fight to make sure that he doesn't miss his kids' stuff. You telling me Jason Whitlock, and that's public information. That came out of his own mouth. He could have verified that easy. And then bring that up. If you're a Christian, that was kind of the big, that was a huge chink in the armor for me. I'm like, wait a minute. A guy that just won one of the biggest fights of all time, who is leading by example when it comes to being a father for his kids, that's in his kid's life heavily. Number one, you didn't bring it up at all, but then you didn't bring that up. Nothing. So to me, it does make you look angry, or it makes you look salty, or whatever people are saying about you. It does make you look bad when that is something that could have been brought up, right? And it wasn't. But anyways, man, that's my thoughts on that. Again, this is no disrespect towards Jason. I have no issues with Jason, but like you said, when it comes to being rebuked, everybody can be rebuked. I'm huge on if I'm doing something crazy, bro, please point it out. But in this case, I have to call out Jason on it between the Shador stuff that happened yesterday, because you're going to get this video out to 12. And then, of course, him not talking about Terrence after the fight. I thought those were two huge, what would you call it? He dropped the ball on him. Two huge balls. Pause. I don't care about pause. I know y'all young folks be saying that. But anyways, man.